What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. Yes, I'm using that same background as my live stream yesterday, but I'm very interested. Do you guys like this background or do you like the one I usually use? This one's a little bit easier to set up. I also feel like the lighting is a little bit better here, but we're talking about the Toronto Raptors today because NBA Central tweeted out that trade prices for OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam considered a shitload. Now, this was being reported by Michael Grange of Sportsnet, also stating that a lot of teams are waiting to see what the Raptors do close to the NBA trade deadline, and then the dominoes will fall. Now, I'm going to be discussing all of this, whether or not the Raptors should absolutely capitalize on the fact that they're having a really bad season, perhaps look to trade OG or Pascal. So if you're ready to watch this video, guys, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to hit the subscribe button as well, that would be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shout outs on my channel, and the shout out for today's video goes out to Dark Knight. Dark Knight, thank you so much for supporting this channel. To your likes and comments, it is very much appreciated. Now, let's talk about OG Anunoby first, because if the Raptors do decide that they want to trade away some pieces, now obviously you're keeping Scotty Barnes, that's out of the question, but if you're rebuilding, I think OG Anunoby is one player you absolutely have to keep. Why? Because OG Anunoby is 25 years old. He's also someone, let's be honest, who really hasn't had the opportunity to work through some of his mistakes. He's consistently, ever since he's been drafted, has always been a third, fourth, fifth option. I think finally this season you're seeing him be consistently a third option on most nights. But I still feel like given the way he has progressed throughout his career, he absolutely needed to give OG Anunoby the chance to prove he's a second, or even, I don't know if he can be, but even a first leading scorer for the Toronto Raptors. You need to let him work through some of those mistakes, give him a bigger opportunity on the offensive side. I mean, his usage rate has increased, his shot attempts per game, his field goal attempts per game has increased every single season, and his percentage has stayed consistently very good throughout those seasons. So I want to see what OG Anunoby can do, because obviously we were hearing a lot of Kawhi comparisons, and understandably so, because the league is finally starting to take notice about OG Anunoby's defense, but his offense is also coming into play as well. So if the Raptors ever do decide to trade away a bunch of guys, I think OG Anunoby you absolutely have to keep. Now, in terms of like, if you were ever to consider trading OG Anunoby, I think that's really challenging. And now because one thing we have to talk about before we start talking about trading OG Anunoby is his contract situation. So taking a look at his contract here, he's making $17.3 million this season. Next season, he's making about $18.6 million. And the following season, he does have a player option, which he will undoubtedly opt out of to acquire a bigger deal, in which we would be making $19.9 million. But I think OG Anunoby, man, like you absolutely have to do everything and anything in your power to re-sign him. He is the perfect fit for the Raptors. Great defensive player. He's got the size. He's obviously getting better, offensively as well. He gets a lot of steals. He's one of the most difficult positions, I think, also to acquire as well. Having a 3-and-D player is a great asset for any team. Now, consider the fact that OG could possibly progress to a 20, 23 point per guy every single night. I don't know. I think that's a guy you could build around. Now, in terms of what the Raptors could realistically expect for someone like OG Anunoby, I think it's really hard to say, because obviously there is an article that came out about a month ago stating that you could I believe, I forget who it was. It was an NBA insider who was reporting that you could get somewhat of a return similar to Donovan Mitchell. Now, I don't think that's realistic, because look, OG Anunoby is great, but I don't think any team is giving up whatever 3 picks and all those 3-4 picks and all those players that the Utah Jazz got in return. But you would get a really nice haul for OG Anunoby. But personally, I don't care what anyone says, guys. I am not doing that deal, because there's no guarantees out of the 3 first-round picks. Even if we get them, let's assume we get 3 first-round picks for OG Anunoby. There's no guarantees that any of those players turn out to be as good as OG Anunoby. We need to remember that first-round picks are great, guys. But the thing is, a lot of teams that will be looking to acquire OG Anunoby aren't necessarily going to be teams that are rebuilding. So the picks you will get most likely will be anywhere outside the lottery, from the 16 to 25 range, if not worse. Again, if you're trading him to someone like the Golden State Warriors, it could possibly be worse. I know Golden State isn't having the season that most people expected, but let's be realistic. Contenders will want OG Anunoby, and those first-round picks won't be as good as many people anticipate. Now, let's talk about Pascal Siakam, because if there's one player realistically comparatively to these two players, I think there's more likely a chance that the Raptors get rid of Pascal Siakam before they get rid of OG Anunoby. Now, we have to discuss Pascal's contract situation as well, because, well, let's be honest, $35.4 million for the way he's playing is a really good contract. And the following season, next season, is going to be making $37.8 million. But I don't think the Raptors are foolish enough to let Pascal Siakam go into free agency. They're definitely going to be discussing contract extensions this offseason. And I mean, let's be honest, he's going to be getting paid a lot of money. I think anywhere $40+ million is easily something that Pascal will get. By the time his contract is up, he's probably making $53 million. And look, a lot of people were stating when Pascal Siakam originally signed his contract, a lot of people were stating that this is an overpay until you saw what some of the other players were getting. So I'm not opposed to re-signing Pascal. I think if you were ever to rebuild again, OG Anunoby is obviously one of those pillars. I think if you are to retool, however, you definitely need to build it around Pascal Siakam. He's a great scorer. He's been the go-to scorer for the Raptors this entire season. Even last season, he was great. I know Fred had that all-star season as well, but Pascal Siakam was carrying the team a lot of the times. I really like Pascal, guys. The skill set, I've mentioned this several times. Will you get a great haul for Pascal? Absolutely. But I've mentioned this several times. Like, look through the last 4 or 5 drafts and take a look at guys besides the Zion, the Ja Morants, and of course the top tier guys. Like, there's usually top guys like, yes, Luka Doncic, there's Trae Young, and yes, I'm very well aware Victor Wembanyama is coming as well. But no, let's be honest, no team that is tanking like the Spurs, like the Detroit Pistons, are giving up their first round pick. So you can get a first round pick in this loaded draft, but what are the guarantees that they become as good as Pascal Siakam has been? A good defensive player, someone who can pass, someone who can rebound, who can score in multiple ways. He can hit jump shots. He can hit 3-point shots. He can attack in the basket. Attack in the paint, excuse me. Like, he could do a lot of different things. And considering his size as well, he's, especially with the way the league is trending, I think it'd be foolish to trade Pascal Siakam. Again, if we are to talk about trades, hypothetically speaking, though, I think I want the starters is at least 3 first-round picks, and I want a really good young prospect. That's the minimum starting point. If the Raptors are ever to consider trading Pascal Siakam, I think that has to be. But again, we do need to take into consideration too, guys. Like, given these guys' salary, especially with Pascal making $35 million, you're going to very likely have to acquire a bad contract in return as well. And there may be a position where you have to acquire 2 players plus to make up the salary that Pascal is making, plus picks, and then plus obviously young assets as well. So we'd have to create some roster space as well. But I don't know, guys. I don't feel good about trading Pascal. I think he's a rare talent of mixture of good defensive skills with his offensive skills as well. And he's the perfect, he's proving to be a number 1 option this season. But imagine pairing Pascal with a legitimate number 1 option. Can you imagine how deadly our offense would be? Like, people do not realize how good the Raptors would be if they had a number 1 option. And no, I'm not saying trade Scotty Barnes for Kevin Durant, guys. We're not going there. But like, get this man some help. Surround him with some shooters. Could you imagine how good this team would be? Can you imagine how much better Pascal Siakam would be? His number could potentially be higher if the Raptors had some shooters. So again, that's all I will say. I know the return would be absolutely amazing for Pascal and OG Anunoby as well. But I'm not willing to do that, guys. I don't know. I think picks, first-round picks, in some instances are overrated. I know the Raptors have had a good reputation of developing good talent even into the second round. So you may question, why would you not want first-round picks? I'm sticking with what I have, man. Sometimes the grass isn't greener on the other side. That's all I'll say. I don't think the Raptors need to blow it up. I think they need to retool, get rid of some of the guys, acquire a starting center. That is the starting point for me personally. You need a good defensive center that can get rebounds, that can be a rim protector. So again, that's just me. We'll leave those videos for future, trade deadline videos as we get closer to the trade deadline. But I'm very interested to hear what you guys think about these trade rumors. Would you want to trade someone like a Pascal Siakam and maybe even an OG Anunoby? Or if you had to choose between the two, who would you trade? Would you rebuild? Would you retool? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, I do have a trivia question for you today. Now switched up my trivia question. So the trivia question is player A stats: 10 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, 0.7 blocks per game. Player B stats: 5 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, and 1.7 assists per game. So which 2 player stats are displayed above? Is it A, Precious Achiuwa and Flynn? Is it B, Delano and Boucher? Is it C, Flynn and Birch? Is it D, Boucher and Thaddeus Young? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. So thank you guys once again for watching this video. If you're still watching, guys, let me know your thoughts on not only this video. Do you like this background better, or do you like the one I've always used for quite some time now? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.